Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's session of the VIP event, the release event of pdfToolbox 13. Yeah, it's the fourth day of the event, one day to come, and this day is dedicated to JavaScript, REST, and JSON. In this session, in the first session of today, for America, I will talk about APIs, REST APIs for pdfToolbox, a new way to use pdfToolbox in addition to command line or libraries. And then I will introduce you into some of these APIs, and I will also introduce you into a new feature of pdfToolbox, JSON reports. So we've decided to put that into this session because it's so closely related to APIs. After this session, David van Riesche will introduce you into a new feature in pdfToolbox 13, which is to build completely new checks using JavaScript. So everything is somehow related to JavaScript today. This is an overview of this first session here. So first I will demonstrate Callas pdfToolbox in the cloud, a cloud solution that we've built around pdfToolbox. And this solution is only available for OEM customers, and I will explain you in a minute why that is the case. And after that, I will list a few other APIs that have been created by partners and that are also available in the cloud, and then obviously for everybody there. And then, as I've already said, finally a short demonstration, a short explanation of how JSON reports are structured. If you should have any questions at any time, just enter them into the chat pod. David is waiting here and will let me know if something comes up over there. Okay, first, what has Callas done in the past month? We've created a new interface for the pdfToolbox that is available in the cloud. But that is, as I've already said, limited to OEM customers. We see this as just a new way to use pdfToolbox. So in addition to the traditional ways, the command line or a programming library, there now is the possibility to call pdfToolbox via REST APIs. So if you build a cloud solution yourself, you couldn't then just use pdfToolbox in the cloud without having to install it anywhere in your own environment. Yeah, but just because there is this new API, this new way to use pdfToolbox, we didn't want to change the fundamental business and distribution model that we have, and that says, okay, we don't do direct sales, we only do direct sales for OEM partners, and that also applies to this API. And that also means that any fees that we charge for using the API would be charged via an OEM agreement. So there is no way to subscribe to the solution or so. Basically, in order to use it, you need to have an OEM agreement with us. And then the question occurs, okay, who then is actually an OEM partner? So what is the definition of an OEM partner? And then, I think it's all clear to us, but I wanted to make it more explicit here in just one slide. So the business model of an OEM partner typically is based on selling products, subscriptions, or hardware with added value. So the pdfToolbox is integrated into that product, subscription, whatsoever, in order to complete the features of that solution, but it's not the solution itself. Yeah? There is much added value in it. So the business model is not based on selling pdfToolbox or related services, integration, whatsoever. It is something different where pdfToolbox just plays a role in. Yeah? And that also means a pure API that somebody would build around pdfToolbox, so a pure REST API, an additional one, can't be an OEM solution because what we are missing there is the added value. And then that is more a technical, feature-based definition. And then on the business side, an OEM agreement also is very much different from a regular license. An OEM agreement always has an annual minimum fee. So far, just to kind of set the stage, to explain what we are dealing with here, now the callas pdfToolbox in the cloud, as I've said, only available to OEM customers. And I will introduce you into some other solutions that are available to not OEM customers as well. But for the ones who are new to REST APIs, I can say, I mean, in the end, they are similar. I mean, if it's just pdfToolbox and then you create an API around it, so the main features and how they work are very much similar. And then, as we all know, the devil is in the details, so there will be differences, of course. But from what I can show you today, there aren't many at least. Yeah? Our solution runs in Amazon Cloud. It includes queuing, as all other solutions that I will name later on do. Queuing means you must not wait. You don't have to wait until a process has been finished. You can just add as many jobs as you want to the engine. It will queue them and then process them one after the other. And then, of course, typical for a cloud solution is it's flexible. So when there are many such jobs in the queue, additional instances will be started automatically, so that there is load balancing available. And then, of course, the question comes, okay, how do I get my results, and how do I know when the engine is ready? There are two ways in our solution to do so. So you can either poll, meaning send requests to the engine and ask about the status, or you ask the engine, the API, to send you server-sent events in order to notify you about the status. And then once you know things are done, results are available, then you could download them. We've decided to make it, the API, fairly simple. So the major way, the main way, the most frequently used way to use pdfToolbox is to apply a profile, a process plan, a KFPX file onto a PDF file. And that is by far the most important API that we have here too. So to apply a KFPX profile to on a PDF file. And then there is only one helper function here, an endpoint pre-flight vars that allows you to retrieve variable keys. The model that we have in mind here is that some guy in the company who integrates with this API is in charge of creating a profile. And then we want to make it possible that everything that can be done with pdfToolbox can be defined in the profile. Yeah, and that is, as we've said in the first session of this event, process plans become more powerful in pdfToolbox 13, and that makes it possible to basically have everything that can be done in a profile of pdfToolbox. Yeah, and then another person in that organization that integrates with pdfToolbox in the cloud can then just use the profile and use this very simple API to apply the profile. One additional thing here, if there is a format conversion needed, so if the input file isn't a PDF file, but an image, a PostScript file, or even an Office file, then the file would be converted on the fly and then processed according to the profile. There are 4 more APIs, save as image, extract die line, split PDF at mark, and split layers. And save as image is there because in the internet, many companies, we assume, many users will just use the engine to create previews or high-res images. So that makes sense to have a dedicated API for that. And the other ones are there more for internal reasons, because these are the 3 APIs, the 3 commands, modes, actions, whatsoever, that aren't available in the process plan yet, just for architectural reasons. We are working on overcoming that limitation, but they are available still here in the API. Yeah? So that is what I wanted to talk to you, tell you about using slides. Let's now just have a look at the API itself. So there is a URL that you could use, which is callas.software.io, and that brings you to a demo client. So a client that lets you play a bit, shows you how the thing works. And then I just want to explain what we have done here. So here you find a link to documentation. So the provider of our documentation plays around. We had that problem 2 days ago. Then it went away and now it's again there. Just a side note, it will bring you to the documentation, to a related article. Yeah. So sorry for that. And then you can hit here, try it out. And then it will show you what modes are available, what APIs are available. And when you click on this mark here, it also shows you the call that we've just made. So this is the call that we just sent to pdfToolbox in the cloud and what we've gotten back. That is what we've gotten back, right? Okay, and then here I have my pre-flight API, I have the helper API in order to retrieve the variables, and then I have the 4 other APIs that I've just mentioned. So let's use the pre-flight here. Click on try it out, and then it shows me the message that will be sent to the server. And again here it's a KFPX profile, it's a PDF file, it's a JSON report. I can say I want a JSON report or I don't want it. Same for PDF report. So, and as you see, we are asking the engine to create a JSON report, and then I have 2 variables in this profile, yeah, we are currently asking the engine to downsample any images to 100 ppi. So that let's now just do so. Engine runs, has finished it, and here is just for an example of information that we've gotten back from the engine. And then I click on the results here. I have a result PDF as well as a JSON report. And then I can also delete the result files if I think, okay, I don't need them anymore. I already have them, so I want to remove them as quickly as possible. I can just delete them. Another command has been sent to the server and now they are deleted, which means if I would click on this entry here, it just tells me the PDF file isn't available anymore. So now what we've done, we've used the polling mechanism, meaning the client has asked the server in a predefined frequency what the status is, and has gotten answers from the server. The other way to do so would be to enable server sent events, and then let's try that as well. And then we could also downsample the files, the images a little more so that we can see something. And then if we try that out, our messages are looking slightly different. But we are getting similar results. And then if we click on the sample PDF file here, we see indeed it has been downsampled. We could also click on the JSON report, and then we see the JSON structure. And I will get back to that later. What I want to do in addition to that is I also want to try another profile. What we make available to users of the API is a number of profiles, predefined profiles that can be used. And if I go here into the prepress section, there are the prepress profiles specified by GWG, and we could copy one link from here into our client and replace the profile with this one. And if we now run it, it obviously does something different. And then if we look at the JSON report, we see that we have some information very similar to what the XML report of pdfToolbox would create. There is a document section where we see modification date, creator, metadata, then also the number of pages, just one page, information about that page. The inks, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, some information about the environment. So we see the whole thing is running on Linux here, and a results section. And I will show a little more about that in the last slide of the session. So let's move on. So far, the API that we have created, that Callas has created, what if you're not an OEM? So what options do you have? Actually, just two. One would be do it yourself, make your own API. You could get pdfToolbox CLI or SDK for it, and then you could write a REST API around it, or you use a third-party solution. And in order for those ones who are looking for such a third-party solution, we at Callas Software want to list them on our website. So we plan to have a page on callassoftware.com where such cloud solutions are listed, so that somebody who will ask me at some point, or may ask me at some point, so I'm interested in using an API, that I could just tell him, okay, here is a page, just go there, and there you will find some vendors who are partners of us who could provide you with an API. Maybe you find one that is working close to you, or whatever your needs are. If somebody wants to be on that site, so if somebody wants to be listed there, of course he needs to have an API around pdfToolbox, or maybe also around one of our other solutions. It must be cloud-based solution, so either it is a REST API that is available in the internet, in any cloud, or it is at least a piece of software that can be installed and then create such an API. It needs to be broadly available. That means not just for a small user group, so it should be broadly available to more or less everybody. And then it needs to be based on a recent version of our product. So a solution that would be based, let's say, on pdfToolbox 10 wouldn't qualify. So now that we've released pdfToolbox 13, such a solution would have to at least use pdfToolbox 12. So, and if you have a solution and you want us to list you, then of course you should let me know. We are aware already of a few of those solutions, and these are the ones that I want to list now. And we've asked partners, these partners that you see here, 3C, PDF, Calibrate, Graphistore, and 4Ps, to provide us with some information. And just as an example, I want to show you or give you some information about these solutions. So, and then as a disclaimer, of course, this is not exhaustive. So we've asked a couple of partners, some of them provided us with information, and we wanted to show that to you just so that you know that there are various solutions around already. And I've decided to, because it's difficult to give right credits to each solution, I can't judge which one is better or which one serves in what requirements better, so I've decided to more or less just read information that the partners have provided. Yeah? It's quite unusual for me in such events, but I thought and still think this is the best way to be fair to everybody. Yeah, so here we've got the first one in alphabetical order, which is 3C PDF. And then they say, okay, their principles are simplicity and waiver, clarity and fairness. And here is some architectural drawing, and what they say is that the API runs on Node.js with Express.js, and the payloads for the endpoints are kept very lean, and in some cases only the input file has to be passed. The pdfToolbox processes are accessible via their endpoints. And thus, for each process, the payload can be smaller and more specialized. The code is currently written in TypeScript ES6 and checked by ESLint, and the functions are then tested using tsgest. And then for better safety, I'm covering that, so for better safety and tracking purposes, no, I'm on the wrong page. This ensures as far as possible that problems with future changes can be detected at an early stage. The task can either be started or queried via the endpoints of the REST API or via a message queue in order to be able to distribute the load over several instances. For the API, either the size or the server or the number of instances/server can be scaled. Currently, all versions are built and delivered as Docker images. This ensures that the API always reacts in the same way at the start, regardless of the server or operating system. And now, for better safety and tracking, TypeScript is chosen as the programming language. By adjusting the environment variables, different behaviors of the containers can be created with the same images. For instance, adjusting the global default KFPX file and so forth. Next solution is from Calibrate, and as some may know, the brain behind Calibrate Radix is Peter Kleinheider. And over the past years, the demand for cloud-based services grew, hence Calibrate created a separate development division, Calibrate Flow. The first version has been developed in 2 years and now matured and became Radix API product. The Radix API product. The goal is to use pdfToolbox and also pdfChip to process PDF files without the need for the user to know anything about these tools. It has an easy REST and RPC API based on best practice. And what Calibrate and Radix API have is they have 3 ways to use it. One are simplified marketing calls that use URL parameters instead of REST API calls. They have what they call workflows, and a workflow may combine several steps. And I have an example, or there is an example on one of the other slides. There are API tokens. So a user gets one or several API tokens, and these are the keys for the engine if you want. And then you can use the keys also to identify and track where a call was coming from to their engine. Yeah, so for instance, to differentiate between calls that were coming from a developer system as opposed to a production system. There is cloud storage support. That means the results can be written to S3 storage in Amazon Cloud that the user has specified, or they can be accessed via HTTPS. Yeah. So here we have an example for such a marketing call. Here save as image is called. So the PDF file is converted into an image, and you can specify resolution, color space, and so forth. And everything you can specify is, in this example, really just an URL parameter, so much easier to use and set up compared to REST call. This is an example of a workflow. So the workflow may consist of a profile, and then if you send the profile to pdfToolbox with a PDF file, and then you may ask or not just pdfToolbox, you may ask Radix API to process the PDF file according to the profile, and then after that run a quick check or a save as image. Yeah, so you can specify various steps for a workflow, and then they will be executed one after the other. And the third way to use it is to use what Calibrate calls a master profile, which is basically a very, very large profile that more or less makes everything that is available or can be done with pdfToolbox available via variables. And the customer may then create a print production job ticket, meaning values for all the variables, defining the product intent, so the intended product, and then the master profile has all the business logic in order what has to be done with the PDF file in order to make it comply to the product intent. And then we have Graphistore. Graphistore is a Dutch vendor. And what we here see is a URL where you can find a client, a demonstration client, similar to the one that we have created with various options. And then you can, this is just a screenshot here, so then you can click on these options here, and then you will show the client will show you the messages that are exchanged with the server. Yeah, so this makes it also easy to integrate with a Graphistore solution. Yeah, most of these solutions are available in, or all of them are available as of today in the internet. So you can, as of today, use them, provided you have a key that will be usually used to access it. And I assume most of them can also be installed. So you may also download and install them and then use them with a pdfToolbox license, pdfToolbox that you have purchased somewhere else. Yeah, so that might be possible. For this thing here that we are will look into, that is the only way to use this. So for pdfToolbox API isn't available in the cloud today. You can, however, purchase it, install it, and then use it with pdfToolbox. The pdfToolbox API for piece created does not exist, the vendor says, David said, as a SAS solution at the moment. Rather, it is a small Node.js application that communicates with pdfToolbox CLI instead on the same machine, installed on the same machine, and provides a REST API for a web portal or website to call. So you can build a website or a web portal that then communicates with pdfToolbox. It was developed to provide two essential features in projects: the capability to be called from a different machine, yeah, hence you need a REST API, or the REST API makes it more convenient to call pdfToolbox, and the ability to queue demands in an easy way, that is queuing. Because the pdfToolbox CLI interface is very broad and powerful, the REST API implements the exact same interface, but then, of course, via REST calls. This makes it painless to go from the CLI to the API and preserves all the power pdfToolbox CLI has to offer. Yeah, so here you can see some of the APIs that are available here. Yeah. Okay. So far, these were some solutions that already are around. Two things that you could do right now. You could just get into contact with me or directly with one of these vendors. Or if you are on the other side of the game, if you think, okay, I'm actually, my solution is missing here, you should get into contact with me or with David, doesn't matter. Yeah. So far, now the final statement, the final feature, the final thing that I want to show you, to explain to you. These are JSON reports, a feature in pdfToolbox 13, a new kind of report. The contents are comparable to what you can find in XML reports, so lots of information related to the PDF, the environment, and the profile that you have been using. And JSON reports are, of course, supported, as we have already seen, in pdfToolbox in the cloud, but they are also reported in process plans, on command line, or in the library. So these are just reports in the same way as a PDF report or an XML report is. And the internal structure we've also briefly seen. So there is a document section with all the metadata. As we saw, there is an environment section that tells you a little bit about the environment, the hardware, the operating system version, and so on which pdfToolbox was running. And then is the probably most important part, the results part, where you can find information about the checks that triggered hits. So here we see a number of conditions that were combined to a check. Is the image, the number of components that the image has, whether it's LIB color, and so forth. And then related to that check, there is with a custom ID and so forth, Then there is a hit, and the hit comes with the coordinates of the respective object and also some trigger values. So very much the same information that you will find in an XML report, but in a different structure, in a JSON structure that is then easier to use in a JavaScript environment. In addition to what we see here, below the checks and hits section, all the fix-ups are listed that are applied, and if the thing runs in a process plan, you will also see the steps that the PDF file went through. So if this JSON report is created after a process plan has been executed, then the steps are listed. And that brings me to the last slide of my session.